We will now hear from Sir Vartan Melkonian, guest conductor of the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. Sir Vartan Melkonian, you have the floor.
My Lords, Your Excellencies, thank you so much for making time and coming here this morning. We are so grateful that you have made it, despite the rain outside this morning. You've heard a great deal about me, that I'm a composer of classical music, yes, that I'm a patron of the Consortium for Street Children alongside with Sir John Major, the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, yes, ambassador, yes, honored with a number of prestigious awards, yes, but you haven't heard about my illustrious academic achievements, have you? I'll tell you about that. Do I have a PhD degree? No. Do I have any kind of university or college degree? No, that either. Well, at least something, a school diploma or anything of that sort. No, not that either. As a matter of fact, I have not been to school at all, nor have I any formal education. I say these things to bring to your attention that street children, like once I was, and uneducated street children do have just as much potential as anybody else to succeed in life and contribute wonderful things to society if they are given a fair chance. And that's why we're here, aren't we? To give these young people across the globe a fair chance. Today is crucial. Here in this hall is crucial. What we do here will echo across the globe and will evoke the emotion of people, and they're conscious about the children who live on the streets as I once was. You've heard yesterday Her Highness Sheikh Musa bint Nasser from Qatar giving wonderful initiative towards this project. A number of you, ambassadors, ministers, and international delegates, giving their views and their aspiration towards this initiative, and the panels. In my days, there was none of that. I was born in a refugee camp in Lebanon, in an Armenian refugee camp next to the city's principal rubbish dump. There were mounds and mounds of rubbish steaming and stinking in the heat of the Lebanese sun. There was raw sewage meandering in between the huts in our alleyways, carrying with them human waste, animal intestine, where thousands of flies buzzing around, where I used to play as a child. That was my home, my sweet home. Then my mother passed away and I was sent to the Bird's Nest orphanage north of Beirut. When I arrived there, an old Armenian woman, Mrs. Osanna, took me into her care, took me into her room, took all my clothes off, had them in the little bundle, and with a stick pushed them into the flame of a black stove, presumably not to bring in diseases from the refugee camp. When I saw my clothes burning, catching flames, blue and green, sparkling in the black stove, I felt the pain in my heart like no other, because these were the very clothes that my mother had mended many, many times, sitting in our little hut on a very low stool beside our lamp, mending them. I wanted to cry, but I couldn't, because the pain was much greater than my age. Then, bless her, Mrs. Sasanya came and measured me, weighed me, and checked me over, and declared something that would stick with me for the rest of my life. She said, "You are now 5 years old, and here I am, condemned never to know my true age." Then I met her. Who? Maria Jacobson, the Danish missionary who have founded the Bird's Nest orphanage. This wonderful and brave woman. Brave, yes, because she had left her comfortable home in Denmark, her sheltered home by the river in a little town in Denmark, and traveled alone to the Middle East, to the troubled region of eastern Anatolia, and saved thousands of orphans. Here she was standing in front of me. I could immediately see that she was not Lebanese nor Armenian. She was foreigner. I was awestruck by this woman. Her hand was not burned or scratched like the women that I know scavenging the rubbish dump at the refugee camp. And then one more thing, unlike all the other women, none of the buttons in front of her dress were missing. I knew she was not one of our own, but in spirit she was. She was like everybody else. She was an international woman. Then she came down to me at my eye level, very close like that, and began to speak to me in Armenian. Good heavens, I mean, she had made an effort to speak Armenian, my own language, which nobody else speaks it except the Armenians. And she said something to me. And those are the things that she underpinned the foundation of the rest of my life. She made me feel I was not alone. Then she said these things. You are here for a purpose. You will grow like a strong tree by a fresh stream. You will become an ambassador. Look at this. You will sit among righteous assembly and report what it's like to be an orphan. What an encouragement. What inspiration to give a child who has lost everything. That is what we have to have, that drive to change the world. Not to see children on the streets with no education whatsoever. Today is a crucial day. It is important. What we do here, as I said, will echo across the globe and bring new life to children. Then when I was 8 or 9, new influx of orphans came to the orphanage, and there were no room for them. So all the boys between the age and 11 had to leave the orphanage to make room for them. Used to go to the city to do a number of vocation, perhaps working for the army, but that was not for me. The next best thing I could do is run away, which I did. I jumped on a cattle train in the town of Byblos, and voila, I ended up in the heart of Beirut city, in that hustle bustle of the square, where there are diesel engines, buses, taxi drivers cursing one another, jostling for different places, police beating up the beggars, and in that place I began my second phase of my life. And in these times, when I have nothing on me but shirt and a short and barefoot, where do I go? No one's looking at me in this cacophony. There's no one. So I had to go into the shadow, as we do, hide away. And there were shadows on the left-hand side. There were corridors, there were alleyways, dirty alleyways, urine-saturated alleyways of Beirut's red light district. That's why I started my life. And a wonderful start. Maria Jacobson was right that I should start there to report what it's like to be on the streets. I lived by the sewers, city sewers, in a little boat. And of course it was very dark in the boat, and we had to have light. So I used to borrow candles from the church in the city. Also, of course, I used to borrow oranges from Mrs. Samira's garden, unbeknown to her, at night. That was my life. So I lived, you just can't imagine, shoeshine boy, runner in the red light district. Then I gathered 5 children 5 street boys and taught them the Christmas hymns that I had learned back at the orphanage. And here we are, can you imagine, amid the noise of belly dance music, jingling fruit machines, the noise and the red lights in these red light districts, and us, 5 boys and me singing, Silent Night. Oh, can you imagine? Foreign sailors on leave were bemused by us. And we made what we used to call it, mucho dollars. Thank you very plenty, Mr. Joe Americano. These were aimed at American sailors on leave. That was my life. Now, without going into the chronology of my life story, which you might find it interesting, one day I ended up a conductor and composer of classical music, conducting the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. Yes, people saying, how is it possible? Long story. Conducting the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, London Symphony Orchestra, numerous orchestras of this caliber across the globe. That's where I started, and once, you might be answering, once when in the presence of Her Majesty the Queen, I was conducting the RPO, Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, then a journalist came and asked me, said, how is it possible, Sir Melkonian, that you come from the slums of Beirut without any education, musical training, and come and conduct one of our most noble orchestras? I said, you really want to know the answer? He said, yes, yes. I said, well, you have to sit with me for the next 40 years, because you can imagine the transformation from being a street child to becoming a conductor and climbing the marble staircase of aristocratic England did not happen overnight. You know, I believe we all have a certain gift unique to us, which helps us to create new ideas, find shortcuts to learn our problems, improve ourselves, and in particular, improve the lives of others. If I were to ask you here, what would be the single most important thing you would wish for if you were able to turn the clock back and start your life all over again? It's a testing question, isn't it? What would be the single most important thing you would do? I know what I wish for exactly, with all my heart. If only I could turn the clock back. I wish I went to school. This is what I wish for. You know, I must tell you, when I used to go and collect my children, Richard and Veronica, I love them to bits. When I used to want to collect them from school, I used to go slightly there early, and just to see them in the window, to see them being educated. What an experience to see these people, these children together, because I've never ever been in a classroom like that before. I've never seen them being educated. And it is time that we think of these children. They too deserve to have the United Nations High Commission for Human Rights, the Consortium for Street Children, and you, delegates, international delegate, to speak for them and advocate in their favor, because they are not the problems of the globe. If you invest in them, they would become the jewels of tomorrow's nations, the wealth, the diamonds of future generations. Invest in them, because they too have the universal right to be granted the noble virtues of education like everybody else. Thank you.